the networking is how I've been able to get jobs. I've probably in 20 years, maybe 25 years, applied to a job with one resume.
Mm-hmm. It's not what you know. Sometimes a good portion of the time is who you know.
Actually, they say it's not even who you know; it's who knows you.
Ooh.
Because I know a lot of people, but if they don't have my phone number, they can't call me to hire me.
Self-quarantining.
And a quarantine order.
Quarantined in their...
Held in quarantine.
Quarantine.
The quarantine in place.
Quarantine for the required 14 days.
Hey, what's up, people? I am JC, and you are now tuned into Posted Back on the Block Like a Mailbox of Quarantineville, better known as Quarantine Talks. Nigga. I really wonder how long I'm gonna be able to do that before I get sued or something. It's gonna be my last time, y'all. I promise. I'm lying. Anywho, on today's episode, I sat down with a lady responsible for bringing to life some of the shows that we know and love, Miss Auntie Jen Farris. All right, Auntie Jen is a location scout and manager here in Atlanta, Georgia. She has worked on projects like the likes of The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, Atlanta on FX with Danny Glover, aka Childish Gambino. That's how some of y'all know that nigga. Being Mary Jane, and my personal two favorite shows right now, HBO's Lovecraft Country and Starz' P Valley. That's right, y'all. She was working with Uncle Clifford and them, y'all. She was working at the Valley down at the Pike. Yeah. For anyone looking to get into the movie TV business, this is a very, very in-depth and educational conversation. Okay, we discuss what goes into being involved in the locations department of a major film set, the importance of networking and how it relates to job placement, and being the only black lady on a Hollywood movie set sometimes, y'all. And also, we got a major gem drop. Auntie Jen tells us what to do if and when you're approached about having your home or your business is being used by a film crew for being a film set. You know, all the do's and don'ts, things you should look out for, so on and so forth. So check that out. Then we delve into what it's like rubbing elbows with Oprah, quite literally. Being involved on the upcoming Nat Geo Genius biopic for ArethaFranklin. I don't know if it's biopic, whatever. And the creative muscle she had to flex for finding locations on Lovecraft Country. And last but not least, civil rights and the importance of voting. Y'all, every once in a while, I get a guest that comes and drops some serious knowledge about the entertainment industry. This is one of them. Stay tuned. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another episode of Quarantine Talks. This is me, JC, and today I have with me, go ahead and introduce yourself, Miss Farris.
Sure, I'm Jen Farris. Jen is short for Jennifer, and I am a native Atlantan, and I also work in the entertainment industry, and my side of the business lands in film and television.
Oh,
I'm called a location scout or an assistant location manager. Mm-hmm. And we work on the back end of movie sets, or like I said, TV sets.
Right. This is well, thank you for coming on the show. So we talked about a little bit about what you do, but there was in doing a little research on you, I found out that we have a link that I didn't see coming. Because you went to
the link.
Not a person, more like a thing. You went to Bennett. Oh. You went to Bennett College, correct?
I sure did.
All right, and that's in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Bennett College, yep, it's one of two African American female HBCUs in the nation.
And my side of the family, my mom's side, is actually from North Carolina, and I used to spend a lot of time in Greensboro just hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
A&T. So I was like, oh, okay, so she knows a little bit about it.
I was actually Miss Bennett in 95, 96.
Oh, snap. Congratulations.
Okay. You talking to a college queen, okay? You talking to royalty today, brother.
Bow down. So you got your degree in like journalism and broadcasting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was from Bennett. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did take classes at A&T also. We had
Really?
at the time a consortium which allowed Bennett, A&T, and UNCG Greensboro to share curriculums. We could cross each other's classes.
Oh,
So
okay.
I took communications classes at Bennett and North Carolina A&T State University.
Oh, okay. So you familiar. All right. What is it? Off market?
Off Market Street, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no, I lived over there.
That was lit. Do you think that your degrees helped you to get into the field that you're in now? Because what you're doing now is more so a trade than, say, like a traditional school degree, So I always wonder that because people will ask questions all the time, like school versus trade. Because not everybody is meant to go to school, and I'm gonna say that. But do you feel like your degree helped you specifically in what you're doing right now, or was it just kind of like one of those things that you did?
For sure. I'm a proponent of education.
Okay.
But that's a multi-layered question because, well, entertainment is an industry.
Mm-hmm.
I studied the foundation of my industry at Bennett, which was broadcasting. But at the time in the 90s, because technology has changed and industries have shifted, back in the 90s, broadcasting for me was television news.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think about when I think about that.
CNN was the big fish when I was in school. And basically, if you went to college in the Southeast region of the United States, your eyes were targeted towards CNN because that was probably the largest production entity in the region.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, I studied broadcasting television and broadcast radio. So I worked at radio stations. I interned at radio stations. I networked inside of radio organizations because back in those days, radio was segmented Black if you were not mainstream. But I'll talk about what I experienced was I networked inside of Black radio organizations because I knew I wanted to work around Black music. Black music meant urban, adult contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
It meant soul. It meant hip hop. That was Black radio. So I got a wonderful foundation in college because it taught me the foundational pieces of knowing what was enterprise Black radio. So I learned how to use audio equipment. I learned how to use microphones on the TV side. I learned how to edit. I learned how to use a camera. But because I transitioned into entertainment, it was by way of radio.
Mm-hmm.
And people in the music business, because they would come through the radio stations. So my career foundation was important for me educationally because it taught me how to write. There's a style that you write in radio news versus radio PSAs, public service announcements. There are different styles of writing. There are different, nuances to the edits, how you do your voiceovers, all those foundational pieces I learned in college. And I would not have had probably the confidence. And now, mind you, there are some people who came right off the street and worked in radio.
Right.
And even television. I mean, you don't have to have I don't think I had a resume, but education was not really a mandatory thing in the music, radio, and television field.
Yeah, that's more.
But it did teach me a very important foundational elements. And because it's all a network, I had the benefit of having a college network and a street network.
Okay.
And I went to grad school and I studied management of media. They called it the media management program. So if I did ever not want to be talent or a labor skilled person, I could actually manage and have a corporate background in managing a radio station or managing a TV network or something like that.
Right.
So it's a cushion. It's a nice cushion. The networking is how I've been able to get jobs. I've probably in 20 years, maybe 25 years, applied to a job with one resume.
Mm-hmm. It's not what you know. Sometimes a good portion of the time is who you know.
Actually, they say it's not even who you know; it's who knows you.
Ooh.
Because I know a lot of people, but if they don't have my phone number, they can't call me to hire me. Exactly. I get hired off of phone calls, so it's not about who I know at all. It's part of who I know, but the big fish is who knows me.
Right.
So
that's a good position to be in too. When people contact you, you ain't got to contact them.
You have to be, or you won't get a phone call. Exactly. And the entertainment business is a referral based business, so you have to have those skills so that you can deliver. Because I can refer Joe Blow right now. Well, let me not use that analogy because I actually know a guy who uses Joe Blow, but I can refer Ray Poo Poo, whoever,
Right.
But if he doesn't deliver, I will never refer him again because basically I'm not referring Ray Poo Poo. I'm referring
yourself.
Jen
Farris,
who spoke for Ray Poo Poo. So if Ray don't deliver, I'm going to have some words with Ray on the side because he's messing up my reputation at this point. And I have, in a very few instances, I have pulled people aside, and I have also pulled people aside that I didn't refer, and I said, look, after the day is over, holler at me because I need to talk to you. And I'll basically tell the person, you're destroying your reputation. If you don't correct these following things, I'm not just critical. I'm telling them, correct A, B, C, D right away, or you'll never get hired again.
Right.
Or you're going to make it hard especially because in the film industry, there are a lot of people of color, but you don't see us as much. Overall, we're the minority still, very much so. So if one person of color, and it's kind of pressure that's not fair pressure, but if one person of color messes it up, it kind of messes it up for the next person of color.
Yeah.
Because some people don't see us as individuals. Some people still see us in the world as Black people.
Right.
So they lump us together. It's not fair because I don't lump other races of people together. And if a Black person, especially a Black female, messes up in front of me, that I'm the next Black female, they might be like, I don't know if I'm having no Black girls because they messed up.
Are you
and
a
it's
mom?
like, no, she messed up.
Are you a mom?
No.
Okay. It's a very motherly instinct. That's why I was asking. You pull you to the side. Hey, come here. Let me holler at you real fast. You know you messing up, right?
You know why? Because in locations, I've been in situations where I've walked into an office after the crew was hired and someone brought me on to help out, whatever. And I'll come in and of course, I'm the only Black girl. And I walk in a room and the person will say, hey, I'm whoever, me guy. And I'll say, oh, I'm Jen. And they go, oh, Jen Farris? What? How did you know that? And it's kind of an understated, you're the Black girl. They don't say, oh, I knew who you were because you're the Black girl. But how else could they have known my full name?
Right.
And not knowing, just me random sitting in the office. They're like, oh, you must be Jen. How did you know that? There's 5 other girls in here.
Right.
But it's because I'm the Black girl. Probably it was a clue that it was me.
So, because that was like one of the later questions that I wanted to ask you about. So we're going to put a pin in that and circle back around to it. But for people that may not know, you are a location manager. So what does your job entail? And then how do you get this job? How do you get... I mean, I know, and we talked about this offline, that it's kind of like one of those things you don't just really apply for, it just happens. But what does your job entail and how did you get it?
Location managers are hired. They're the head of the locations team, and the production hires the location manager. The unit production manager hires the heads of each department.
Okay.
But it's back in the who do they know?
Right.
So they call the people they know, that they rely on, they trust, they respect. And then that location manager hires the locations team, usually starting with the key assistant. And then depending on the size of the crew, there could be one or two of those. Sometimes four, depends. If you're on a commercial, I've managed a commercial, and a lot of times it's one person and they might just it's small. But the production hires the managers, and the managers hire their teams. Mm-hmm. But it's really all in who they know, who they like, who's available. They'll call around and say, "Are you available? I'm looking for someone to start on this day. Are you available?" That's really how we get hired. Mm-hmm. The locations team is the core of the film production. So there's an office staff that works strictly in the office. And on the field side, there is the locations is the nucleus of that field. Yes. So the locations department the manager has to have excellent logistics vision. They have to be able to speak well. They have to be able to write well. Right. Have to understand budgets. They have to have, I don't think all managers have people person. They're not necessarily a great personality, right, but they have a team that can pull off a great personality. Okay. They individually can talk to strangers and negotiate agreements, because locations people's job is to take that director's vision and even the writer's vision and make it tangible. Right. We have to translate those words into tangible physical spaces. So if they write about church, I have to, as a scout, find the church. The manager has to negotiate an agreement with the church. Right. The key managers negotiate the permits, or they don't negotiate the permits. They obtain the permits from the city of Atlanta or whatever municipality we're in. And they have to physically provide a location agreement that says we're filming on this church, at this church, on this day, at this time. We have insurance. We have a check for the property. And now, under COVID, we have cleaned the property. So the manager has to be a person that is suitable to handle all of those layers and deliver them under a budget that the production has given the manager.
Wow. When they call you, are you how do you get paid, like a headhunter, per location, or is it just, do they put you on contract? You can only work for this project at this amount of time, or how does that one work?
I'm in a union, and union workers get paid on a salary. So we're hired as independent contractors. All film people are hired as independent contractors. Okay. Union independent contractors are on a contracted length of time, but from start to finish, we're on a contract, and it'll have a start date and an end date. Everyone on production sees a paycheck whenever they pay on that whatever weekly basis or however it is. If you're not a union member, you still get paid on that same payroll, but you might only get paid for a few days as needed. They call it day playing. Day playing is you are paid per day, and anytime they don't need you, you don't get a check. Okay. You only get paid on the days that you worked. Okay.
And then I know personally that for some people wondering how you become a union member, it's the amount of times that you work for a set production, or isn't that? It's the amount of time.
Each union is different. Okay. Yeah. There are countless unions inside of one production company. The hair and makeup people have a union. No, I think I don't know everything about everybody's union, right, but locations people are Teamsters. Camera people have their own union. Right. Hair people have a union. Wardrobe people have a union. The medics might have their own unions. Every union has their own rules. Some unions will let you apply there's a union here called IATSE, and they handle a lot of the people on the crew, and multiple people fall under IATSE. But they have a price that they charge. They have a website that tells how to join their union. But each union is different. I was referred into my union back in the mid 2014 by the unit production manager. Okay. So but I paid membership dues, and Teamsters has a website also. But everyone is different, and whatever field that a person is interested in, they should Google their union. Okay. And it'll tell what the address is, or if they have representation in Georgia. Yeah, they kind of break them into chapters. So so if I moved to California, then I would want to join their union, but they require on the West Coast that I have to be a resident of California for, I think there's a certain length of time before I can even consider joining their union. I just can't hop over and join.
Right. And so what happens when, you've been contracted by company A and they're like, go into this neighborhood or go into this church, go into whatever and get us a location. So you get the location and you bring the crews in and everything like that. What happens in the neighborhood? Like if it's a whole entire neighborhood, does the neighborhood get money? Like, do they pay it to...
Like the neighborhood association.
Right. Thank you. The association dues, or you pay like the certain person, like a certain church, or how does that work?
Usually there's no template. Each location is unique. It's like planning. We usually work Monday through Friday. It's like planning 5 weddings a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Each day is a wedding. It is. It is. So each day is a different day. Monday is not Tuesday, and Tuesday is not Wednesday, and Wednesday is not Thursday. So a church is usually a private space, but that church would give me their contact, who the film contact is. They would receive a check because we're renting their space. If we go anywhere off that private space, a sidewalk turning into the church, that's city property, or it could be a state road that I pull into the church off of. We have to research all this stuff every time we touch a property. So if there's a state road in front of the church and we're going to be on that state road, then there is a Georgia entity that handles state roads.
Right.
If we're filming this character driving on that state road, we have to pay the state or entity. We have to have the city's permit if we're on the sidewalk and it belongs to that city. And then we're on the private property. So it really depends on the script. But if we're in close proximity to a neighbor on another private property, then sometimes if we are in their way or we disrupt their home life or their business, we have to pay them an inconvenience, or we'll offer them an inconvenience. Hey, we're going to be a little, noisy, or there's a car chase today. There's going to be simulated gunfire. You might hear some gunshots.
Right.
Fake gun. We have to notify the city of Atlanta. I'll speak on them. They require that we notify neighbors in writing. We have to sometimes even collect neighbors' signatures to approve those things. We just can't show up and do it.
Right.
And if they don't approve it, then we have to adjust.
You found another location?
You hope not to have to do that, but if it boils down to the neighbors are not okay with it, then you have to. You really hope and pray that everything comes together because you don't want to make a change. If the writer loves it, the producer loves it, the directors love it, the crew is aware of the location, you don't want anything to change. So it's a very fine line. You have to not walk on eggshells, but you have to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed and every single person is on the same page, because that would be a big adjustment to move locations, especially after you've applied for a permit.
Right. The
wedding planner is ready to have the bride walk down the aisle. You don't want to be like, oh, sorry, bride, we're going to have to change churches. What?
Have you ever been able to not find a location? Because I know, you're like it in Atlanta as far as location managers go. Like, people, they know you. They be like, I know Jen gonna do it. But, have you ever just not been able to find a location?
No, my job is to find it. No.
Yeah. So that's why I say what I say.
There's been a time where I remember I'll give you a real scenario. I was working on this story called Survivor's Remorse. And
it was a good show.
The manager was from Philadelphia. The early on manager was from Philly. And he didn't know the city, but he relied on us to know the city.
Right.
I can't remember why we had to film down on the Edgewood Avenue corridor, like near the King Center. But we were down there, and I was asked to scout a house. So I think they found a house that they liked. I think that's what it was. I found a house, and then they needed another house, but this house was going to be made of brick. Well, if you go down to the Edgewood Auburn Avenue corridor, those houses are not made of brick. They're made out of wood.
Right.
Because they wanted to pretend the characters went to Boston. And Boston doesn't have a lot of wood houses because it's cold. They have brick houses. That's the architectural difference from the South to Boston is like brick. So I circled that area up and down. There were no houses within this radius. They needed a 2 mile or 1 mile radius with brick houses. And so I said, look, there's a brick church that if you are in the front of the church, it's a church. But if you go around the back, it looks like a house. So I walked up and down that church in multiple directions to show if you have the camera here, this looks like a house. If you have the camera here, it could still look like a house. If you have the camera here, oh, it looks like a church. So you don't want to stand here, but you want to stand here and here. And so I showed them all that, and they ended up using that church as a house. Sometimes the locations person has to be very creative, but I can't just throw my hands up and go, well, sorry, ain't no brick houses down here on Edgewood. I have to find the brick and find a way to make it look like a house, because that's what they wanted me to do, and that's what they pay me to do.
So I never really thought about a location manager in that sense, but like it's interesting to hear you say like you really do. You kind of have to like paint the picture for everybody. Like, look, this is why this is gonna work. It looks like this here. Yeah,
we're the visual translation of the script. So when I scout, I have to really literally use my imagination. I think the imagination is more important than my camera. I have to see Boston. When I'm driving, I have to envision that I am driving in Mexico. I have to envision I'm in Miami. I have to see, I worked on a show years ago called Constantine, and Constantine traveled constantly. Like he was in the Arab nation. He went to Miami. He went to India. He went to parts of Mexico. Like he was all over. And I had to drive around the city finding these parts of town that look like the Middle East, Miami, Florida. And I mean, I've even been asked to scout on a TV. It was a movie called Dirty Grandpa. I was asked to scout in December for Florida. And the manager said, I need only evergreen trees to be in the shots. So that means in the middle of our December, where all the leaves have fallen, every location I scouted had to have trees with full-blown leaves on them. So I had to find apartment complexes with full trees and with leaves. So I have to research species of trees that might still be intact and base my whole entire research around trees. These trees that are in Florida, where are they in Georgia?
Right.
Where are they in Atlanta? Can you shoot it tightly so you don't see the falling leaves on the oak tree? You know, I have to really think about that.
What do you do if you're approached to shoot? Like if you come and knock on Auntie Caroline's door and say, hey, your house is perfect. We love to shoot in it. What should Miss Caroline be asking for? What should she do to make sure that everything goes smoothly at her house?
Well, the first thing I tell Miss Caroline is, Auntie Caroline, make sure the location scout is a legit person. Think about your safety first. feel free to call the film office in the state of Georgia and verify that this production is real. That's the first thing I tell Auntie Caroline, because her house might be perfect. But I have also told Auntie Caroline, I will wait outside until you verify that I'm who I say I am. Because if someone knocked on my mother's door, I would want them to verify. I want her to verify the person. Mm-hmm. So I'm not offended if Auntie Caroline pauses, but I need that location quickly. So I try to provide her with as much information to quickly verify who I am. That's my personal first step, even if I'm in love with this property, because I don't want her to flake on me.
Right.
And I want her to be 100% comfortable at the gate. Because if I present her location to the designers and the directors and they love it, and then she flakes, that's not good for me.
Right.
I engulf her with information about how it works. After she's comfortable, she should expect that there will be a team that would want to see her place after I see it. You know, there will be a director that will want to see it. There will be a producer that will want to see it, a designer that will want to see it, the location manager want to see it. And most of the time they come together. Pre-COVID-19, they came together. She would also be expecting an insurance policy, because we are liable for protecting her home. We have certificates of insurances that she should have in her possession before we film. She should also have an agreement in writing before we film that says what we're doing, what day, time, all of those details, and how much her check is going to be.
Amen.
Amen. She should get paid. Now, some productions don't have the same budgets. Even some productions don't say, if they say, well, we just don't have a budget because we're small. There is no excuse for a production not to have a professional agreement, a professional certificate of insurance. They should have things in place that protect the home, such as a rubber mat that you put on the hardwood floor so that when that camera rolls in, they're not tracking streaks on your hardwood or your linoleum. Put a mat down. There's little things that probably don't cost a whole lot of money, so that Miss Auntie Caroline knows that you at least tried to protect her floor. Right. I would love to be able to tell Auntie Caroline, we have a cleaning service coming after we leave. Not a week after we leave, but they coming today, Auntie Caroline. We leaving today, they coming today.
Okay. So I want to circle back around to your comment that you was making at the top of it, because we all know, Atlanta, the state of Georgia, is a chocolate place. Got a lot of chocolate folk here. So I know personally, having been on set, I have seen quite a few Black people, I think, and I've been surprised to see that many. But I don't know if that's because we're in Atlanta and Atlanta is different, or if that's because the industry is kind of diversified.
I don't see a lot of people. Let me not say what I was about to say. But the large productions, I'm still the minority. Mm-hmm. The Atlanta, the Deep South, just census data. I'm a data person. Census data shows that more people of color live in what was the Confederate States than anywhere in the country. Right. But if you leave outside of here, we're not probably. I have not been on a New York set, but when I'm in locations, organizations, and I'm still very much a minority. Mm-hmm. Okay. To see that large number of people of color is a Southern thing. Okay. I don't know if it looks like that everywhere. Whoever the managers on top hire, they hire people they know, and they hire people they know, and they hire people they know. So a lot of times people hire who they know, and if they know a lot of Black people, they're going to call a lot of Black people.
Okay.
It's just probably who that network's contacts are is what you're seeing.
Okay. And then personal question I had, one of the favorite projects I saw that you've worked on outside of Atlanta, because I like Atlanta. But like you worked.
That's a good show.
It is a good show. You worked with Oprah and Harpo for the Henrietta Lacks story. What was that like?
The story is amazing.
It is. And I'm a huge, I every time I open my mouth and somebody says something, I always let people know, no. One for Black people, we wouldn't have all of these vaccines and everything else. So what was that like working with them?
Well, the first off, I'm crazy about biopics and I'm crazy about Black history. I was referred to a guy in New York and he was here and he called me and I didn't know who Henrietta Lacks was. I had never heard the name. And as we were talking, I was Googling her name and I was stunned that Henrietta Lacks was a name I never
heard of,
heard in my life. However, I did think back of my childhood science classes and I had heard of HeLa, which I learned was the acronym for HE for Henrietta, LA for Lacks, and was stunned that my whole life, and I'm in my 40s, that I never knew that Henrietta Lacks or HeLa was a Black woman from Baltimore who died and her cells have not died yet. Like that is, how did I not know something so miraculous and so literally there is no other explanation except God that her cells are still today growing outside of her dead body on their own and multiplying. So, I mean, just knowing that, I immediately told the guy, like, I would love to be a part of this project just for the story. You know, like I said, education is big for me. So to be able to educate people that I knock on their doors and share this story with, and almost nobody whose house I scouted or business I scouted had ever heard of Henrietta Lacks. So when I told them this, they were like, oh my God, I just got chills. Oh my God, how have I never heard of this lady? And they were so excited. I sold this story so hard. People wanted to be a part of it. And then, of course, you say that Oprah Winfrey Harpo is a part of the production. It was pretty amazing, you know, to be, you know, at one point Oprah was standing next to me on my shoulder. I'm like, wow. You know, I couldn't be groupie out with it. You know, they told us not to talk to her you know, groupie over Oprah. But just to be like, wow, I'm standing, my elbow is touching Oprah.
Right.
And that's pretty amazing. You know, I'm so proud of that project. It helped bring light to a real story and a story that changed science around the world forever. Right. A Black woman from Baltimore changed science around the world forever. Not even knowing that she did this.
Or her family.
Or her family, which is the tragedy of the story, is that they did not know that this was happening. But for anyone who's watching this interview, if you can, please do yourself a favor and get HBO. And I believe Netflix at one point was carrying this story. I'm not sure, but HBO for sure. Look up The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. It was probably the most favorite project that I've worked on, because it was just the most incredible story ever. And George C. Wolfe is a Tony Award-winning director for theater. And for me to be in the car with George C. Wolfe just so many times, you know, it's amazing. That was an awesome project to me.
Is that was actually gonna be my next question? Like, what was your favorite project and what was your least favorite project?
I've never had a least favorite project. The one of the really tough one, I cannot lie, was Lovecraft Country is one that HBO has about to come out. I just started seeing previews for it. It's a Jordan Peele project. But that one was tough because it was scripted so specifically, and the details in the locations, the designer had a vision of what she wanted, and it had to be exactly like that. So that was really challenging. Like, oh my gosh, and sometimes people write stories where these things don't exist here. I'm speaking of architectural details. The architecture doesn't exist here. So sometimes a designer might have to manipulate their vision, and sometimes they want to, and sometimes they don't. Mm-hmm. The scout has to find at least a structure bones, I call it, the bones of that architectural design. Can I see that that's Boston? Can I see that that could be Miami? The stucco could make me think this is Los Angeles. I have to really dig and find it. And sometimes what we're looking for is not in Atlanta. It might be in Macon, but is a production willing to drive to Macon? So in a production like Lovecraft, they had to bite the bullet and take location outside of Atlanta and go to Macon, or they might have to go to Savannah, which has gorgeous vintage architecture. Cobblestone streets exist in Savannah. There are cobblestone streets that exist in Atlanta, but they don't allow. Well, they used to allow filming in these areas, but maybe they don't anymore. But sometimes they might have to go hours outside of they call it zoning. The zone in the metro is a 30-mile radius. So they might have to go outside of that 30-mile zone if that's where the architecture is. But you have to be willing. The production, are they going to be able to afford to go farther out? Right. They have to calculate gas mileage. They have to calculate hours of labor. How much are we driving? And I've worked on productions where we were lodged in a hotel because it was expensive to drive back, forth. And it was dangerous for the crew to drive sleepy. So they just lodge us in a place far away. And we might stay there for 2 or 3 days, it's a budget, the budget thing. But it all starts with what can I as a scout find locally? That's my job. Right. Can I find it as close to our office as possible? And then, okay, I've exhausted. They really want me to exhaust all the options.
Before I get it. Yeah.
Because it's expensive.
Yeah. And then I think the last question I have for you is, in your bio, it says that you are an artivist and a creator. How are your art and your creations actively activating and helping the movement?
Well, I can honestly say that since I've stayed so busy, I haven't balanced the time between working for someone else and creating. So during the hiatus, I'm taking advantage of it to create things that I've wanted to create for a really long time. Before I started scouting, I used to create a lot. And I created educational content. Back when podcasts first came out, I created podcasts. Well, now I just want to recreate some things. So, it's something that it's hard to do because I work 5 days a week. And so on Saturday and Sunday, I just sometimes want to rest. Right. But I have to shift. That's something I have to challenge myself with, shifting to push those other 2 days for not just lying around being lazy, but I need to use those 2 days to create something. Even if I just say, okay, I'm going to create one Saturday a month, but I need to make a schedule and stick to it. And that's the key. I often run my mouth. I'm very passionate about education. I'm passionate about Black children. In particular, I'm extremely passionate about politics. And it angers me that and I'm going to speak general terms, we as Black people do not vote on a consistent basis. That's a general statement. But we as Black people do not vote on a consistent basis. We are very vocal. We voice our opinion. Mm-hmm. We're passionate. We fuss about things. But then when it says, okay, special election is this Tuesday, the percentages are so low that it just infuriates me. So it's just like you can't fuss about something and don't vote. Exactly. So I know for sure if I create art, it will probably encompass voting rights, and our rights are slowly being erased. As people get into these positions of power, and it's a chess game right now, people are being placed on courts that have no qualifications. This is going on now while we're in hiatus.
Yep.
We are not even aware, general speaking, we're not aware of these things because, one, I'm generalizing, we don't read anymore. We don't read the newspaper. We rely on social media to tell us this is happening, but don't verify the facts. You know, like I said, going back to the beginning, I'm a journalism major with a broadcasting skill set. So I'm very big on reading the newspaper. I read the newspaper every day. You know, I am very aware of things that are going on around us. And it infuriates me that we don't know these things. So I take upon myself to share information. I'm like, you know what? If people don't read, I'm going to snip the newspaper myself and I'm going to post it so that you know what's going on in the hard fact, black and white news. Not sensationalized reporting is not journalism. Journalism is journalism, black and white facts only. And I figure, if anything, I can tell my artivism is probably going to shift me back into journalism and back into education and back into our civil rights as voters that we, as a general terms, don't take advantage of. Mm-hmm. And some people feel like, well, my vote doesn't count. And it's like, your vote not only does count, but when you don't vote, the other team wins. Right. And then you fuss about Meek Mill going to jail because you're mad at the judge. Well, guess what? You could have elected that judge that now you're fighting with. But if you had voted and that judge didn't catch that seat, you wouldn't have to deal with this. We're always on the defense when it comes to problems, and we need to be on the offense. Right. We have to get in front of the problem instead of fighting all the time. Fight at the ballot, and then you don't have to fight after that, because at that point you have a person in space that you want, that's intelligent, that makes good decisions. And I definitely know that's a passionate button for me. Like, it makes me so angry.
It sounds like you need to run. That's what it sounds like to me.
Angry.
It sounds like you need to run. Miss Farris for county seat.
People dead in the nose. They fuss about stuff, and I'm like, "Well, who did you vote for?" And they go, "Well, I didn't vote because." I'm like, "Where's my fist? Where my no?" Punching you dead in the jaw. Punching you dead in the jaw.
So I'm gonna be writing you in. I got this mail ballot sitting on here on my table. I'm gonna be writing you in. Okay, so you need.
You better vote. I'm pointing to the camera. If you don't choose your leaders, you have to take the leaders that you get, and that's it.
Miss Farris, is there anything else you would like the people to know? Anything you got coming up that we need to look out for?
Well, I can tell you this. The last project that I worked on, I'm so in love with it. It's about ArethaFranklin. It's called Genius. Okay. And ArethaFranklin, we know, we didn't finish it because of the COVID crisis. We were at the very end. So we're literally I think we were days away from finishing. Yeah. But if you have or don't have the National Geographic channel, I scouted the whole thing. Okay. And it's very awesome because we're going to learn about ArethaFranklin as a person. Each season, they focus on a different person. Okay. So Aretha is the third genius that they're focusing on. Okay. But definitely watch that. If you watch Lovecraft Country, which is about to come out, I didn't scout that whole thing, but I scouted for a few months. That's a really good one to please watch. You'll see, the
Is this all on HBO? Is this all on
HBO? Lovecraft Country's HBO.
Uh-huh.
Genius, Aretha is National Geographic Channel.
Oh, wow.
And I'm trying to think. I think those are the only two things that I worked on that haven't aired yet.
Okay.
So those two definitely check those out. You'll see my work, and I'm very proud of all of the work I've been blessed to do, and even with the COVID that's happening, the COVID scare. One more thing I will say this is I'm very concerned about the health of people of color. Or not people of color, just people. I'm concerned about our health as people.
Right. And
working on sets, there is a very intense need to be healthy. Like, you have to have energy and be alert. And I would always tell people to consider eating clean when you work on a set, because you don't want to fill your body with empty sugars. And I actually stopped eating sugar for a year and for 13 months last year, and I lost 50 pounds just from not putting it in my mouth. I did nothing else.
Excuse me.
And so I did nothing but stop eating. I lost 50 pounds. But what it does, sugar and chemicals and aluminums in your deodorants and your toothpaste and the chemicals and your hygienic products, it blocks your senses. So if you use aluminum-based deodorants, if you consume talcum in your powders, if you have all these things, these are chemicals. I would always encourage people to really monitor even your toothpaste. Erase the toothpaste that have fluoride in them. I don't want to be sued by any toothpaste companies, but there is evidence out there that shows that fluoride is not very good for you. So be aware of what you put in your body.
I use Tums.
The sugars. Tums.
Mm-hmm. I use Tums.
Tums. Yeah, Tums has, there's some great charcoal toothpaste out there as well.
I also use charcoal toothpaste.
Yeah,
I use
very
both.
Good. But be aware of what you're putting in your body, because the way your body feels is how your work probably will deliver.
Right.
Amped up on coffee and all those things that are amping your kidneys. You have to know there are repercussions to amping your kidneys all day, every day, all day, every day. They could fail one day. And so we have to physically, our work is done because I'm physically driving my car. I'm physically standing on a set. And if you have kidney failure, guess what? You have to go to dialysis now. You can't be on set. So you don't have a job. You have to know that what you put in your body affects your physicality. And if you can't physically deliver for film and production companies, they won't hire you because they can't. You can't work. So be aware of how you eat. Consider adding juicing to your life. Consider adding fresh fruits and vegetables to your diet in abundance of the meats. Consider doing a fast of sugar from your body. Stay out of the drive-thrus. Cook fresh food. There are things that you can do to really, keep snacks in your car. When I'm scouting, I keep snacks in my car. I keep fruit in my car, like oranges, things that won't go bad, and I bring them. I put them in my glove compartment. I put them in my armrest. I keep popcorn around me. I might pop that and then keep it in the car, because you can eat cold popcorn. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Things that I drink smoothies in the morning, and I keep them in the car with me so that my energy is constantly on an up. The sugar's constantly down. I don't have coffee needs because I sleep well. I'm awake. So that's my last, I guess, thing is that I'm very passionate about how well we are, because we're all pushing. I don't know about you, but, we're pushing against 50, and I think I look pretty good. I feel good. My energy's high. I plan to stay that way, because it would be nice to do this forever until I decide to leave, not when it decides to leave me.
Exactly. All right. Well, I mean, y'all heard it. So y'all heard Auntie Jen. Y'all better eat right. Because she's not playing with you.
I'm fussy, darling. I'm pushing.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me. I greatly
You're
welcome. And
can I leave my website?
Yes. Go ahead. Tell me your website. I'm gonna put it in the bio too, like in the show notes. But go ahead. Tell them.
My web address is my name, right? Basically, it's JEN-FARRIS.com. And so that's just a web address that has, like, talks about who I am. You can see my resume that way, and even shoot an email there. But it's just something that basically is a page landing that kind of even has articles, even media and press, so people can validate that I'm who I say I am. So that they can, even too, I encourage people, because of other interviews, they can, sometimes their questions are already answered, and it's good to just read. But I always just, put that out there too. And yeah.
Okay. Well,
a good place to dig into it.
Well, that's it. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Bye.
Bye.
Later. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on the Instagrams at the OVT Network. And you can follow me, JC, at JC from the OVT. Very simple, right? This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and pretty much everywhere in between. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and rate us 5 stars if you were so inclined. Thank you. Quarantine Talks is a podcast that is also available on YouTube. Just type in the OVT Network and hit subscribe for all of the latest and greatest from we at the OVT. Lastly, we are an independent and Black-owned media network, guys. So if you enjoyed the content and you would like to drop a donation, you may do so on Cash App or the Venmo at the OVT Network. All one word, the OVT Network. Quarantine Talks is edited and produced by me, JC, with original music produced by Brian Haddon. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Stay safe, stay creative, and most importantly, stay sane. Find your peace, man. It's crazy out here. Latest.